Today we're going to take a look at the Sansui G55X, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why this is, forgive me for saying this, but this is about the most ignorant amplifier I've ever owned in my entire life. And I'm going to take the one small tone board out of it today and see if I can make an improvement in it. And if I can't, this is going to be the first amplifier I've ever had to go to the Hall of Shame. It's already been to the closet of shame for about a year, and I pulled it back out. I've made a lot of good improvements on it, but it still has pretty horrible mid-range. And it depends what you listen to on it. The amp likes Paula Abdul, but it doesn't like Cyndi Lauper. It likes some country, but it doesn't like male vocals. So we're going to take the tone board out of this, and I'm going to pull a UKZ Nichicon out, and I'm going to replace it with one of these MKS2s. This is a Hail Mary pass on this. Just at wit's end. So let me put this on pause, we'll get it open, and I'll show you how to get the tone board out of it. Okay, I got this thing open. I think it takes literally 3 seconds to open this up. Sometimes I think Sansui did this because they knew that you were going to be in and out of it 100 times. And just thinking about this, I already just don't even want to do this. Because this is just about the most miserable thing to deal with. The tone board that I need to get out of here is sitting right down here on the bottom. And if you look close, you can see I already have some 30 gauge wires pulled up through and bent over the edge of the card edge connectors as a safety precaution, because once you remove these boards about a dozen times, you open yourself up for trouble. I haven't had any trouble with it, but I did this as a precaution. So I pulled some wires up through to support the pads. Before you even start on pulling that board out of there, it's really ignorant because you only have 5/8 of an inch between this front edge connector and the front face to get the iron into. But before you do that, make sure you got your solder sucker in mint condition. Pull it apart, clean every drop of solder out of it, grease it, expand the rubber ring in it if you need to, but make sure that's in tip-top shape. I would not attempt to do this without solder wick, but I have already. But solder wick is going to be your friend. This is something I've rarely used in my whole entire life of electronics, is solder wick. But on these Sansuis with these edge connectors, it's pretty much a necessity. Most of the time, the best position to work on these is with the transformer facing down, with the unit setting on its side. That's something you'll learn about these units. That's about the best position. I would not attempt to flip the unit and set it on its other side. So let me actually flip this around. I'm going to have to flip it upside down to do this. But normally when I work on these, a lot of things I try to do with it setting in the position that it's in. So let me flip this around and we'll start this process that I don't want to start with it. Alright, I'm not even sure I can do this with the camera mounted in front of me, but it's going to be very cumbersome at best. The good thing is I'm not even hitting that tip at the right angle because of the camera here. and I'm still pulling all the solder off. The worst mistake you can make when doing this is not paying attention to what you're doing, and when the solder ejects from the nozzle because of carelessness or whatever, the solder ejects somewhere on the board and you don't realize it until you power it up. So you don't want to have the solder sucker over top the board when you eject it. Oops. And if you don't clean it out good enough, by the same token, you're going to have little pieces fall out the end of it when you're moving the solder sucker off the top of the board. And they'll get you too. I got the iron on 725, but it's all a matter of how quickly or how slowly you do this as to where the iron temperature should be. Ideally, you don't want it any higher than you have to. I've never seen a pad come off because of high heat, but at least not on this one. But anything's possible. What you don't want to do is pull that off with a solder sucker and then try to wiggle the board out of there, because you're going to tear something up. So you want the board to fall out all on its own. Which this side has already.